Well, welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Being kind is the guys in this mess in the first place.
You can put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, banking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. And how's everybody doing today as we get the Last JabroniCon, for now, started? Just have a couple of things to get fixed here. There. Some information for anyone interested in the crowdfunded translation project, which I am raising funds for. You can find the completed translations there, and also where you can go to donate to the project if you should be so inclined. And it's always appreciated if one is so inclined. So we started to talk a little bit last night about like the lobby hypothesis, like the idea that which you see a lot of these days on the Young Turfs, that supposedly the reason the US supports the Zionist colonial shithole regime is that there's this all-powerful lobby and it just forces their hand. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that because that's bullshit. It's bullshit, and it is designed to exonerate the U.S. by misdirecting a lot of the analysis and opposition. Okay, the main academic proponents, like the closest thing to a serious proposal of this argument comes from Walton Mearsheimer, who I imagine a lot of people have heard of. They're fairly well known. They wrote a book called The Israel Lobby. And the thing about this book is it kind of gives the game away. Because one of the things that they say in there, as they're trying to explain why you need to have this lobby to explain why the U.S. is supporting the Zionist regime, is that this is U.S. policy in that region is somehow exceptional, because normally what the U.S. is doing is promoting democracy in the rest of the world. And I've heard people say, that, oh, they're just saying that because they want to get the normies on board, because they don't want to challenge too many things at once. But no. That is actually essential to the entire argument. Because the only way you can claim that this one thing is controlled by a single lobby, and everything else isn't. Everything else functions like the normal way that these things function, is if you're saying that it's somehow exceptional. And so if you want to believe that it's somehow exceptional, then you have to actually claim that the U.S. in the rest of the world is just engaged in distributing daisies and sunshine and stuff. If you don't do that, the entire thing falls apart. And so you have to start from this idea that it's somehow unique. And I've heard people actually claim that. But the thing is, none of it's unique. I mean, first of all, supporting murderous regimes is kind of what the U.S. does in the world generally. I mean, Latin America, plenty of times. Africa, a lot. But then, you know, sometimes they'll be, yeah, but I mean, a genocidal apartheid regime? Would they do that? They don't do that anywhere else. And a military occupation, too? Yeah, that can't be. Except, of course it is. I mean, okay, we've got a couple examples. You know, you've got East Timor. The U.S. imposed dictatorship in Indonesia, invaded and occupied East Timor, and carried out what was the largest proportional genocide since World War II between the 1960s and the late 1990s. Like, it went on for that fucking long. Similarly, okay, an apartheid regime, well, I mean, there's like the OG apartheid regime, South Africa, the people who invented the concept, the term apartheid. The US backed them to the hilt, and what do you know? They were illegally militarily occupying Namibia and Angola and carrying out murderous wars of aggression there. And even within the Arab-Iranian region, you've got West Sahara, which is illegally occupied by Morocco. And they're carrying out all sorts of settler colonialism and ethnic cleansing there, too. So, not unique there. So, that's already a big strike against the argument. But then, you also have to believe another kind of uniqueness, namely that only this lobby, this one little lobby, is the only thing that could possibly be happy with what the U.S. is doing in the Arab-Iranian region. And of course that's also bullshit. I mean, yeah, nobody even tries to make this argument because it would be absurd. Because, like, the main other stakeholders, the fossil fuel lobby and the arms lobby, are laughing their way to the bank. They love it. It's doing great things for them. There's no evidence that their interests are being harmed, and they're much more powerful than this actually tiny lobbying group. If they were being harmed by it, they could sort that out fairly quickly and with basically no money, by their standards. So the whole thing makes absolutely no fucking sense. You just have... It is not an exceptional case. You do not need exceptional explanations. It's just Israel helps the U.S. do imperialism the way they like to do imperialism. And if that ever changes, the U.S. will drop them. As just like before 1967, they didn't really have much time for Israel. So I just thought I would kind of get back to that briefly. I said I was going to touch on it. Now, last week, we were looking a bit at this horrible interview between Contrapoints Natalie Wynn and Josh Citarella, something like that. I never heard of him, because she'd said a bunch of things that really sucked about Palestine. It turns out she said some other actually really, really important things that also really sucked. So we're going to have a brief look at that, because it turns out that she and Citarella were both providing propaganda cover for the various internet censorship bills that are currently making their way through Congress. So okay, where is it? So I think we'll look at that briefly. We've got a bunch of other stuff as well, but first I have to find the thing. Here we go. Contrapoints how online politics became real life.
Now,
Yeah.
so we'll see what develops.
Yeah.
I wanted to break things
Okay.
up, though, as referencing...
Brandolini's law versus D-radical debate, and I think it must be under debate and algorithms. So let's see.
It's harder than ever, is my feeling. Like, I used to think this was possible. I mean, I used to go on these like, debates even with so there's two problems with it, with debating right-wing people.
I mean, the main one is it just gives them a platform to spread their bullshit ideas and does not hurt them, which is why they're so eager to do it, actually.
Is that the right-wing people they're not interested in participating in a Habermasian in public square. They're interested in owning you for clicks, right?
Damn it.
Yeah, which is why it was always a bad idea, actually. There were people that were trying to tell her that back in the day, too.
And then the second problem is that your own leftist audience feels betrayed that you dared talk to someone on the right, because it suggests that maybe means you're betraying them, and you're maybe thinking of going over to the right, because why would you talk?
Well, except, God, you'd think at some point she would have actually understood what the criticism was. Like, it's been around for a while. The issue is not... Yeah, the issue is that actually debating them helps them, which is why they want to be debated. Because it does not matter if you think that you beat them with facts and logic. As far as they're concerned, and their target audiences, what happened is that they got to get all their talking points out. And the people they're trying to reach don't give a shit about your counter-arguments. It does not matter to them. That has always been the criticism, but apparently she somehow has missed that?
Someone on the right if you weren't on the right.
Right.
It's very hard to overcome this guilt by association.
Hey, Riveroon. It was never a guilt by association thing. Like, does she really not get that?
So it's like a pincer. Like you're discouraged from doing it, both by the way you're treated by the right, which as an exploitable resource for them to create attention moments.
Which is the exact argument that she does not want to respond to, that leftists are making.
Yeah.
And you're criticized on moral grounds by the left for associating with the enemy.
She, like, literally cannot accept the idea. Like, she has clearly... She acknowledges that this is a valid argument. She's just you gave it herself. But it's like she cannot accept... she cannot concede that the left actually has an argument that she considers valid, because then she would have to acknowledge that maybe the left is like serious people who have a point or something.
Which kind of made it, to me, just not worth doing at all.
Right.
Good.
Sure, some people are able to do this. Like, men have to do this. I'll just say it. I can't do it. Like...
Debate.
Yeah, debate favors men.
Yeah.
Because it favors assertiveness, aggression.
I mean, there are women who have those qualities. They are certainly discouraged in women, but plenty of women have them. That's not the issue here.
Owning the enemy with facts and logic. Even like, it's not that women can't do that; they can. It's just that when women do it, it's perceived as like unfeminine aggression.
Yeah, but the question is perceived by whom, and does it matter? Like, the people who are going to view it that way, are those people you are going to reach anyway? Like, assuming that the idea that, like, debating fascists was a good idea, and it's not. But assuming that that's the case, like... why? Oh, thank you. Where did you put them? But that's not the issue.
See that movie, Town Bloody Hall?
No.
Jermaine Greer and who was the... I forget the name of the writer.
Jermaine Greer, the racist Kiwi TERF. I once stood out in the rain to protest her getting honored as some sort of, like, special guest lecturer at Cardiff University years ago. Oh, okay. Critique of Josh, do not research. Critique of Josh's politogram in the post left and his broader research methods.
Remember the writer?
Okay, yes, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. I will be taking an interest in it, because I don't know who the hell this guy is, really, other than that he annoys the shit out of me in this discussion.
Norman Mailer, right?
I have seen that. Yeah.
But it's like I'm not on his side of the argument, but like his...
Okay, this is not the stuff that I was actually interested in.
He has incredibly powerful...
So I'm going to speed through it.
Comprehensively and like well-spoken arguments against it, and he's just like, yeah, that's all bullshit. Like, and it's really strong in a debate format.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean... actually, just saying, yeah, that's all bullshit is often a much better argument, especially against fascists. Like, don't, like, if you find yourself in a situation where you are, like, verbally confronting a fascist in front of an audience, actually just expressing disgust at their ideas and saying, yeah, that's bullshit, and just dismissing it with just absolute contempt is probably the strongest move you've got, other than just, like, smacking them and fucking off, or, you know, encouraging them to do so. Because it doesn't give them any fucking mileage. It does not. It is a way of denying that they are in fact worthy of participation in a discussion in the first place.
Yeah. Trump, just
He's
by
the
pure force
perfect-
of intimidation and like aggressive posturing, is able to be perceived as winning. So
Well, yeah, because the win-loss criteria are different. The fascists only care that their ideas are getting out there. They don't give a shit if their ideas make sense. Their ideas make sense to them because their ideas justify the stuff they want to do. So if somebody's getting out there and saying stuff, it doesn't matter if somebody who knows what they're talking about is responding and saying, yeah, that's a bunch of crap.
I agree that debate is in some cases necessary.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Look, I think I'll take a peek. All right, is this specifically do not research that you're thinking of? This guy sucks. If he's this premier internet historian sociologist, then the field could use some better writers. Maya myself could do 100,000 times better job than this man. He sounds like he's never truly been on the internet and observes and assimilates in the way only a true colonialist anthropologist could in the 21st century. The problem is that he fundamentally doesn't understand how the internet hive mind works. He may understand and reveal some objective affects of the internet as they leak into reality, though he does not understand the logics that actually create the substance which leaks and from where it spills. The way Josh Citarella writes is very academic, to say the least. I would go as far as to say colonialist. He comes from a position of superiority. That perceived sense of superiority, that definitely gets across. He is the civilized human, while his subjects are primitive savages to be observed, to pity rather than understand divergent realities in his writing. For anyone who is curious what I'm looking at, which we have here, thanks to River Rune, I'm going to drop that link in chat here. There's a shallow, cordial acknowledgement of divergent realities in his writing. I say cordial because this understanding is formal at best. It meets the necessary requirements to appear academic in nature, or maybe I should say is academic in nature, to signal the writing as something worth intellectual review and respect, but does not in any way relate to an actual understanding of the realities that Joshua writes about. Ingenious, really. He does not even have to acknowledge this little trick because it is most likely the unconscious act of a brain-dead nihilist loser who thinks his thoughts are worth anything at all. Wow. I mean, I see what you mean about the writing style. That just accelerated from 0 to 60 in the space of half a sentence there. It's like, it was all very peer-reviewed, book review feeling to it until the, very last half of a sentence. I see what you mean. Okay. So that gives us a bit of a feeling for the guy, and I have to say, from what I've seen of him, it does seem right, because he does seem to feel very much superior of everything. He seems to be very much above it. He has this bemused laugh about things like people caring about genocide, which he doesn't understand why anyone would possibly do.
I don't think, just to be very clear in all of these things, it's good to have leftist video essays, it's good to have leftist podcasts. We're just saying that it is insufficient to win in the scale of the national election, if that's the strategy that we're trying to achieve. We need more on top of it. What do you think about, repealing Section 230?
Okay, here we go. This is what I just heard about, because Taylor Lorenz has a thing on this. There's a video, it just showed up in my Rex, called Contrapoints Needs to Stop Spreading Misinformation. So For anyone who is watching this at any point and does not know what Section 230 is, and I imagine there are a lot of people who don't, say, oh, I do appreciate it. I look forward to reading the rest of it. Section 230 is basically what makes everything good about the internet possible. It does this because it says that the operators of interactive computer services, which is anything from, at the time, they would have been thinking of CompuServe and AOL, but it's also like, you know, Google or Facebook or Twitter or, you know, Twitch or the YouTube. There is not a publisher under any circumstances for legal purposes, and that is important. It sounds very technical, but the thing is, if you're a publisher for legal purposes, that means you are liable for the content that is being published. In this case, the idea is to make sure that platforms are not liable for user-generated content. And that it is not exaggerating to say the reason that we can have this conversation right now, the reason that basically anything worthwhile happens on the internet, is that this section exists. It is the most load-bearing section in the entire edifice of internet law. You take that out and the whole thing falls apart. Because, okay, Project 2025, in one of its sections that has very strong bipartisan support, wants to get rid of Section 230. Big Tech also wants to get rid of Section 230. Because the thing is, if you get rid of Section 230, then we go back to a sort of totality of the circumstances test about whether a platform operator is a publisher for the purposes of, like, libel law. Which means that you look at whether they are exercising editorial control, i.e. content moderation. See, because there is Section 230, platforms can do content moderation, whether it's just moderating to make sure things that are stay on topic or preventing abuse and stuff like that, without becoming liable for the content that users post on the platform. You get rid of it, they basically have two options. One is to crack down and censor the fuck out of everything, and the other is to just have a complete free-for-all. And both of them amount to just, like, giving the entire internet to just Nazis. Hello, Jinjiri, how you doing? Yeah, I mean, getting rid of 230 is an absolute disaster, and it's something we really need to be talking about and talking to people about, because nobody's talking about it. It gets no media coverage. Like, the only person I know, the only reason I'm aware of any of this, actually, is that Taylor Lorenz has been on the story. And she has made a point of pointing this stuff out. Like, that should absolutely be a thing that we are talking about, because it is all about reestablishing narrative control, and it is basically payback for the fact that the internet exposed our entire fucking political class as a bunch of genocidal freaks, and they're really pissed off that we know that, because it has meant that the narrative that they would like to be discussing is not the narrative that most of us are discussing. They want to reestablish narrative control, and getting rid of 230 is an important part of doing that.
For platforms that have algorithmic recommendation.
I don't know. I mean,
Okay, 230 doesn't say shit about algorithmic recommendation. And also, algorithms, like, these people do not know what algorithms are. Like, anything is an algorithm. All an algorithm is a series of steps. Like a flowchart is an algorithm, fundamentally. No matter what it is. So, getting rid of Section 230 does not help anything. Just makes everything worse. Because it means that platforms have a direct interest in censoring user content in a way that they don't now.
Algorithmic recommendation as opposed to what?
As opposed to, like, Substack, Patreon, you volunteer.
Those have algorithms, though. All of those have algorithmic recommendation. Like, these people do not know what the hell they're talking about.
Like, opt into a thing, it's not recommended to you.
Patreon and Substack definitely do have algorithmic recommendations. I get algorithmic recommendations every time I go on Substack. All sorts of people I'm being algorithmically recommended. Some of them I actually find worth following. Like, these people, like, they don't understand what these terms mean that they're just throwing around.
And so that reduces proportionally the sensationalism and the advertising revenue engine. It does...
That's actually not entirely true, because a lot of the time the algorithms are used to suppress a lot of the sensationalistic stuff. Like, I mean, algorithms, one of the things algorithms do that's actually quite good is to, like, shut down a lot of the more obvious spam shit. They can do that through these algorithms. So if you get rid of that altogether, you just say no algorithms, rather than, you know, transparency around algorithms. Let users control what the algorithm does in their instance of the thing they're using. You're basically, again, creating something of a chronological free-for-all where all sorts of spam and other shit that people don't want to see also gets involved there. But, like, even bringing algorithms in here is just ridiculous. Because Section 230 is not about algorithms.
Doesn't necessarily eliminate extremism, but it means you have to, like, click in. Almost, you gotta opt in.
And the minute you hear people using the word extremism with no qualifier, you know it's bullshit. Because the only reason you would say extremism without any qualifier is bad is if you accept the idea that what's bad or not is relative proximity to some notional center. And that doesn't make any actual sense.
It's hard not to think that would be good at this point for me. I think it's, I don't know how practical.
Jesus, like, these people, their careers are on the internet and they don't know anything about it.
I don't know. I think that's going to be fought very intensely by the most powerful people in the country.
Now, that's actually the exact opposite. What they're talking about here is a proposal that is bankrolled by big tech. Like, Meta is big into, spending money to encourage the repeal of Section 230.
Because that's what they make a lot of money from it.
So I agree.
Yeah.
Like, they do not know what the fuck they're talking about here.
But we are watching with this takeover of TikTok.
Yeah.
Right. I'm trying
Which is another example of one of these great internet censorship ideas that was, remember, it was sold as being about, like, protecting our privacy, because the real threat to our privacy was fucking was like that China might access our personal data, as opposed to Langley and Fort Meade and the FBI.
Chip away at this, because I agree. These are the libertarian, like, techno-capitalist class is basically the most powerful people that have existed in human history. Right. How are we gonna, like, force a law against them?
Yeah.
This isn't a law against them. In fact, there's an organization that is very much like that claims called, I believe it's the Digital Childhood Alliance. Sounds very nice. Sounds like a great little org. And they have made it very much to a point of making this about holding big tech accountable. They are funded by big tech. Big tech is funding this idea that you can hold big tech accountable by changing the law in the way that big tech would like it to change. Like, this is how fucking warped this discussion is, and these two are just talking about it like they know exactly what they're talking about, when these most basic things about it elude them.
But they're kind of doing it already with TikTok.
Yeah,
like, they may actually put parameters around political speech on social media anyway.
Like, why would that be good, actually, though?
Yeah.
And so there may be a few
does
avenues
TikTok
of
have,
attack.
like, American... I mean, because I feel like with TikTok, they're able to sort of frame it as like foreign interference with American media, whereas, you know...
Yeah, although they actually did kind of openly admit that the reason they decided to give Trump the power to ban TikTok and any other social media platform that the U.S. government doesn't like, potentially, is that it was exposing the genocide that the U.S. was and is committing in Gaza.
We have, like, our own domestic oligarchs who are going to defend Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, right? But I do think that, well, I don't know, I mean, Twitter's kind of a fascinating situation because I feel like Elon Musk took that thing over and basically they trust busted themselves, basically, right? Like, they completely unforced, like, created all these other Twitters that you can join, Threads, Blue Sky, you know.
I mean, the other thing about this is specifically the whole reason that all of these internet censorship laws that all revolve around getting rid of Section 230. One of the central things about that is that it is meant to actually make it to kick queer people off the internet. That is the point of it. I mean, the Heritage Foundation actually openly says, yeah, this is what we're going to use the so-called Kids Online Safety Act for. They're the ones who are pushing getting rid of Section 230. And it's in Project 2025. So any politician who is advocating that, and that is very much a bipartisan thing, like Ro Khanna is very much in favor of it, they are supporting the implementation of a crucial bit of Project 2025. So, like, this is just another example of how when you hear, don't vote for them, they're going to do this thing, that does not even mean that if you vote for us, we're not going to do this thing.
I mean, I don't think those have the...
Not yet.
Yeah. I mean, the other problem is that, like, the thing about that algorithm is it's like, they really are... They're selling us crack. They really are.
Oh God, oh God, this is a social media addiction bullshit. Like, there's like literally one place where it has any validity, because it is a completely different context, namely chatbots, whose entire thing they are designed to suck up to you. They are designed to validate whatever you say and tell you whatever you say is just the best idea ever. Because the idea is to keep you coming back. And, in fact, they've been shown to do this. Actually encourage people to cut off other people that are in their lives and rely solely on the chatbot. And in that one case, there's some validity to it. But elsewhere, it's just nonsense.
Hopelessly addicted to the thing, to be honest. To Twitter, anyway.
Okay.
And it's partly because of the chaos and the... I mean, I find Blue Sky boring.
It is boring,
It's boring.
I mean, they are not wrong there. Blue Sky is... I mean, there are some good people that I follow on Blue Sky. But I have to say, the user experience, the UX, it starts with an S. And... on Blue Sky, I have to use a VPN to check my direct messages. Because they, alone in the world of social media, have complied with a ridiculous Ohio law that requires government ID and biometrics in order to access certain aspects of social media.
I also don't believe that if a platform is predominantly leaning in one political direction, that, like, we should just send all of the liberals and leftists over to Blue Sky. Like, I think... I
mean, I will say, yeah, I also agree with him. There's this whole thing where liberals will actually, like, go and, like, hiss at you, fucking traitor, if it turns out you're still on Twitter. But, like, why exactly, just because Nazis want Twitter to themselves, why should we give it to them? Why should we actually let them have any space unchallenged? Plus, Blue Sky has this thing where they ban Palestinians in Gaza so that they can't raise funds for their survival. So, which is also, kind of fucked up.
You actually need to have those voices in the right-wing dominated platform like Twitter. And I picked this up from Rokana, actually. I wasn't sure that this was an actual thing that people are going to move forward with, but it does seem like there's legislation around it, and I'm kind of...
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. It is, like, literally, anyone who was telling you about how terrible Project 2025 is, and is silent about repealing Section 230, which is central to it, central to the whole internet censorship section of the project, is probably probably taking the piss out of you, really.
I've put the now like 8 years of my adult life into this kind of research and material and the Gen Z social media interviews I did. I think that we need to get upstream of this process, and this is kind of the best thing that has come across my desk recently. Because I think...
Imagine spending all this time researching social media and you don't understand what 230 is and who wants to repeal it. Like, you suck at the thing that you dedicated your life to.
It is basically Brandolini's law. If we're trying to fight the right, what can we actually do in this space? It's clearly 90% dominated by them. We have to pull different levers.
Yeah, well, the idea of like regulating. I mean,
Well, just because they're all over the place. Because the thing is, big tech is. I mean, the people who own big tech, they're fash. Billionaires in general, they're fash. They're at the very least very comfortable with fascism. They're more comfortable with fascism than the other things they see coming down the pike. Anyway, just because they're there doesn't mean that we can't just have our fucking conversation. You know, to the extent that it doesn't have anything we don't want them to see anyway. And just not give a fuck about them. Block them when we see them. Keep them out.
I think that some kind of increased regulation of social media probably would be massively beneficial if it were done by the right people.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm always somewhat anxious about anything that counts as feels like censorship, for fear of it. But I don't know. They're already doing censorship. Like,
well, yes, but the people who do censorship, they want to do more censorship, and getting rid of 230 is more censorship.
That's the problem. Is they're already Like, I mean, I wouldn't want this to happen under the Trump administration,
No.
but like.
Well, yeah, but here's this is just such. Okay, here's the thing: if you give the state the power to do something, it will have that power no matter who's in government. Like, so if you give, a wonderful guy like fucking genocide Joe Biden the power to, say, censor the internet because, criminalize the use of an app because it's been declared a foreign adversary application. Donald Trump gets to use that, or, if not Donald Trump, then, whatever, like, other shithead, comes down the road next. Like, there are no powers that you can give the state that are not going to be used by governments you don't like. You're giving it to all of them. That is why maybe they just shouldn't have certain fucking powers. Like, I'm all for it. Like, if we were talking about socializing social media, just getting rid of all these companies, getting rid of all these pricks, and social media belongs to the users. It belongs to the users and the communities those users are part of, and they get to decide how it operates. They get to decide how the algorithm works for them. They get to decide all that shit, and, fucking Mark Zuckerberg can go eat dry toast or whatever the fuck he does. That would be something. That would be good, because this is like crucial communications infrastructure, and it's in the hands of these just tyrants. You just look at these motherfuckers, and you cannot be at all comfortable with the amount of power somebody like fucking that Carp at Palantir, or fucking Elon Musk, or, the Google assholes. I forget, who they are at this point. I don't know if Brin is still directly involved or not, or Zuckerberg, or any of these fuckers. Like, you can't, if you pay any attention to what they're about and what they do and what they think the world should be like, you cannot feel at all comfortable with the amount of power they have over one of the main ways we communicate with each other. So if we were talking about socializing it so that it belongs to us all and is controlled by us all, that would be good. But like this shit, no way.
Advancing a proactive politics for the left, maybe that should be part of the 2028 platform, right?
No, maybe it
jobs
should.
guarantee and repeal 230 for platforms.
The trip.
They literally do not understand what the fuck 230 is about.
It could be to find a way to sell this to the public in a way that doesn't seem like they can't be so easily framed as like authoritarian leftist takeover.
But it's an authoritarian right-wing takeover. That's what it is. It is an authoritarian far-right takeover. It is right in Project 2025, the authoritarian right-wing takeover handbook. What this thing they're talking about. I mean, they're talking about this when they clearly have not done even elementary research on what it even is.
I got a suggestion.
Yeah?
You flip the trans thing, they're coming for your kids.
That's literally what they're doing already. That is like literally already the argument for all these internet censorship laws. And of course they're being used to kick trans people off the internet. They're being used to kick queer people in general off the internet. Like, do these people really not... How the fuck can you be aware of Section 230 and not be aware that this is exactly what's going on? In terms of that this is how it's being sold.
The platform.
Yes, no, that's actually a good idea. That's a good idea. Focus on the...
Yeah, I mean, it's a great idea as long as you're not like queer on the internet. Like, you do realize, Natalie, my dear, if that happens, you're off the internet. Like, all queer people are off the internet because you're harmful to youth, according to the people who are the proponents of the thing that you've decided is such a good idea.
I don't know.
Did you see that the lawsuit where this girl, I should know?
Oh god, yes. He also doesn't know anything about this. What's kind of not mentioned in all of the reporting on it is this young woman was brutally abused by both of her parents. Beaten, like her mother had her do daily weigh-ins, all sorts of psychological and physical abuse, just absolutely hideous. Social media, as it happens, was like her only relief valve, because it was the only way she could kind of escape a little bit from the horrible reality of her home. And this lawsuit that they're talking about, which is like supposedly a win for child protection against big tech, that gave two massive abusers a $2 million payday. Their daughter, who does not actually seem to feel that she was harmed by social media, and why would you? She works as a social media manager now, actually. Like, I mean, this is the most fucked up thing.
Details of this, if I'm bringing up on the podcast, she was like 16 years old, and they're suing for anxiety and emotional damages, the big platforms.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the ones who cause the anxiety and emotional damages. God.
Yeah, and this is now setting a precedent where Rial's the producer of this show, but he was telling me there's now class action lawsuits opening up against the platforms.
Well, that's a...
I mean, one can only hope that it is actually reversed on appeal, or at the very least that their daughter, who is grown and works as a social media manager now, finds a way to get that payday from them, to sue them for like the huge amount of abuse, because it's fucked up that the two abusers that caused all the emotional distress and damage and everything are walking away with $2 million after suing a platform that actually did not cause the problem. Like, that is just deeply fucked up. She should get that fucking money.
A smart way to start. I mean, I think that I like your suggestion of doing it as some kind of think of the children thing, in terms of, I don't know.
It's like, do they not realize that this is already how this is being sold?
I just feel like it's gonna end up you being like gravitate towards banning pornography.
Yeah,
Like,
well, yes, that's good. Natalie, follow that. Who else do you think are going to get banned? Who else do you think might be explicitly planned to be banned if they get rid of these laws? Natalie, could it possibly be that queer people might be targeted?
I'm not necessarily opposed to the idea that like pornography should maybe be slightly more ghettoized on something like Twitter, right? Where as opposed to just like, oh, there it is in your feed all the time.
Right.
And certainly when you have like a significant portion of the website's users are underage,
I have to say, I'm on Twitter a fair bit. I do not have porn in my feed. I mean, I will admit I do not look at for the For You tab, because the For You tab is a vision from hell. And maybe that's full of all sorts of, like, fucking prawn or something like that. I don't know. But I do not have this issue.
but then when it comes to something like vaccine misinformation, I mean, this was tried during the pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Where like Facebook
During the pandemic that's still going on.
and YouTube all kind of attempted to like instate misinformation restrictions, and that was viewed by many people as tyrannical. I don't know. I don't really have a solution to this, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the truest thing she said. She does not have a solution. But okay, I wanted to just point that bit out. Because she has gotten so much shit, quite deservedly, over the fact that she has basically just completely shat all over the Palestinians. But this bit is really dangerous too, and it has not gotten anywhere near the kind of attention it ought to. Now, I thought we might have a look. David Pakman is back on his grift, and he says the left is about to get played. I mean, that I'm kind of curious just what he's saying, because
there are people.
I mean, there certainly are people trying to play.
On the left about to get played, and I want to prevent it from happening.
I mean, you're one of the people trying to play them, though.
That's why I want to talk about this today. There is something happening on parts of the political left right now that is more than just wrong. It is so naive, and it is going to have real consequences.
You mean like listening to billionaire-funded propagandists and thinking they're independent content creators?
As if we don't put a stop to it right now. The idea is that Tucker Carlson has now apologized for helping to support Donald Trump. He has said some things that sound anti-war. And there are people on the left naively falling for it.
I mean, I would say more centrists quite knowingly walking into it. I don't think that it's naive. I mean, the people that I've seen falling for it, they know exactly what the fuck they're doing. Like, Cenk and Anna, the Young Turfs, they know exactly what they're doing.
And saying, look, maybe there's an opportunity here to work with some of these people. Maybe we can make a coalition with Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I mean, yeah, absolutely not.
I saw a couple of posts from Cenk Uygur.
Okay, yeah, I knew that was coming.
Who I've known for a very long time. I just saw him in Washington, D.C., where he posted something along these lines. Listen, Tucker, apologize, and that sort of thing. This is a very bad idea. And this is a fundamental misunderstanding of how politics actually works. And
oh, great. Pac-Man's going to tell us how politics actually works.
What these people believe, what these people want. And it's confusing rhetoric with an actual alignment on policy and on values and on long-term goals. I've said before that populist rhetoric can be very deceptive.
In fact, the word populist is very deceptive. Intentionally so. The idea is so that you can't tell the difference between leftists and fascists. You just call everything populist.
And it is designed to do exactly this. Populist rhetoric.
Again, in this case, he means fascism.
Flattens very complicated issues into emotional, easy to agree with statements that feel like common ground when they really aren't.
Like what? I'm very curious what if he's going to give an example here.
Talked about this before. You hear the system is corrupt.
I mean, yes.
We should stop funding this war.
Both good things. But yeah.
We must make sure that the average person isn't crushed by the desires of the elites. Now, who the elites are, is it?
Yeah, I mean, when you hear the elites, that's usually an indication that you're listening to somebody who, at the very least, spends a lot of time around Fash. Wait, I haven't heard the name Peter Coffin in ages. What are they doing now?
Is it big corporations? Is it the Jews? Is it, we must stop the elite? Okay. That rhetoric is...
Like, I mean, what's wild here is he started out with actually a couple of very clear statements. And then he threw in one that is just an obvious Fash dog whistle.
To trigger agreement without any deep examination of what comes next. What comes next is the most important thing. I've said before...
Well, I don't know. I mean, hopefully what comes next is the war stops. There's no funding for the war.
Or that you might hear a couple of sentences from Bernie Sanders and a couple of sentences from Tucker Carlson, and they will be very similar.
Because neither of them wants to challenge... because both of them are trying to misdirect you away from any kind of critique of capitalism.
Because they are employing populist rhetoric. But when you ask Tucker, what is the solution here? It is an atrocity. And that is the whole trick. That's where the differences matter.
I mean, he's not giving any examples. And in this case, you absolutely could give examples. Because Tucker Carlson has said and believes all sorts of extremely fucked up things. Like, there's no reason to just say this in the abstract.
We'll talk about Tucker. Tucker's criticisms are not rooted in consistent, principled frameworks.
I mean, what's wild about this as well is that David Pakman has never once used his significant platform, his very well-funded platform, to do anything to draw attention to the U.S. genocide in Palestine. Like, at the height of it, at the absolute height of it, in 2023-2024, according to one of his former production assistants, he and Brian Tyler Cohen went on, like, a meeting with Kamala Harris, and on the way back they were talking about, what do we do about Gaza? And they came to the conclusion that they just shouldn't talk about it because it wasn't good for Democrats. And it's like, I mean, so, like, what credibility does he have to even be making this point? Like, it is a valid point, but he doesn't get to make this point because, like, he doesn't even pretend to give a fuck.
That align...
Like, people who primarily get their information analysis from him could very much be forgiven for not even realizing that the genocide was going on in the first place. That's how little he talks about it.
With progressive or center-left policies. He is not an ally of the progressives or of the center-left.
I mean, he's not an ally of the actual left either. He is a fascist.
He comes to this populist-sounding rhetoric from a nationalist worldview that prioritizes very different outcomes, completely at odds with democratic norms, completely at odds with global stability.
Like, what is global stability, though? Define global stability. Like, because I don't remember him saying that, like, doing genocide in Gaza was getting in the way of global stability, so clearly that is an example of something that is a part of global stability. In which case, I mean, the only thing for it is to say fuck global stability. the stability is actually dangerous.
And completely at odds with basic pluralism, which I, as a person of the left, certainly value.
As a person of the left, yeah, which you're not, but okay.
And want. So the rhetoric will overlap on an issue, on two, only in a very narrow context. The underlying project that these people are pushing is completely different. You've got to see that.
Like, is he just going to avoid using examples? Is he actually afraid to use examples because, like, Tucker Carlson, acknowledges the genocide and stuff, acknowledges the fucked up shit that the U.S. is doing to Palestinians. He does it as part of a completely dishonest fascist agenda, but he actually acknowledges these things, and David Pakman is still shit scared to even acknowledge them, so he knows he ends up looking worse in that context.
If you don't see that, you are not engaging with politics at a serious level. You're being naive. You are reacting to tone. But we've got to react to substance and to ideology.
Well, then why don't we talk about substance and ideology? I mean, there's plenty of stuff if you want to go at it. Like, if you want to do this, and I think it's worth doing, because Tucker Carlson is absolutely fucking pernicious. Like, all of these fash fuckers who are trying to farm clout off of the blood of Palestinians absolutely need to be called out, and they cannot be given any fucking, not a fucking hair's breadth of space. But if you want to actually inoculate people against them, you have to actually show what they're saying so you can pick it apart and say, this is why that sucks. Yes, they're acknowledging a thing that is absolutely a fact, and it sounds good because so few people of his stature will even acknowledge it. But look at where he's going with it. Is Peter still associated with the CPI?
Here. This is why most people on the center left and in the progressive sphere are not going to fall for this. And I'm glad about that. They recognize the pattern. We saw this before.
Well, they don't recognize it thanks to you because you're not even showing us what the pattern is. Like, this is like saying, okay, now we're going to go out in the woods, okay, but you need to know there is some shit out there that will give you a rash like you wouldn't believe. You do not want to touch it. It is ivy and it is poison. And I'm not kidding. And it'll look really nice. It'll look like just a regular old plant. But if you touch it, you're going to be scratching places that you did not want to be scratching for a very long period of time. And then you never actually show somebody what it fucking looks like. That's what he's doing here.
When you had some of these same people nominally on the left before the 2024 election going, Trump's outflanking Kamala on the left.
Like, nobody was saying that except maybe very ironically to point out just how fucking right-wing she was on certain things. Notice, now here he doesn't even give examples.
Trump's the real anti-war guy.
Nobody was saying that. Like, Caleb Maupin was saying that. Caleb Maupin was saying that, but, like, nobody else. That's bullshit.
Trump is actually the person who's going to deal with Gaza in a more humane way.
Nobody said that. Like, literally nobody said that. Like, that's why he's not giving examples, because nobody said that, because he was very explicit that he said he wanted to finish the job. But here's the other thing, though, that you do have to acknowledge in this. Way fewer people are being murdered in Gaza now. Significantly more aid, nowhere near enough. I mean, it is still criminally little, and I mean literally it is a war crime to be blocking any of the aid. But compared to 2023, 2024, the reason the resistance has not been eager to go back to fighting there is precisely that the situation is an improvement for their people over where it was in 23-24. That is a reality. Like, it's gone from thousands of people being murdered every week to, like, hundreds a month, which is fucked. It is horrible. It is a fucking crime that nobody's being held accountable for. And honestly, I think media figures like him who either distracted from it or lied about it, or, like, outright justified it, I mean, those motherfuckers, like, in the Rwanda genocide trial, media figures definitely got tried for roles just like that, and I think it's appropriate. But, like, he does not...
So naive.
Like, even now, he will not even acknowledge the genocide in Gaza.
And I said it at the time, and we've been proven correct.
Well, actually, on that last thing, you haven't been. First of all, nobody was saying that. Nobody was saying what he was saying, and second of all, the reality for people in Gaza is that the situation is better now. It is appreciably better. That's just a reality. You can, like, look at the, daily reports from the health ministry in Gaza and compare them to the reports from the health ministry in Gaza at any time between October 23 and January 25, and you will see a difference.
Falling for this crap leads to disastrous political decisions and empowering the worst possible people. And if you start believing that when...
Well, then, wouldn't you want to actually show people what they're supposed to be looking out for? Like, give actual examples. Show us. Like, there's footage of Tucker Carlson saying all sorts of fucked up shit. And things that sound innocuous, that seem superficially good, but are actually dodgy as hell. And if you were serious about this at all, you could do that. Like, lots of people do that. I do that sometimes. Not so much with Tucker Carlson, mostly. But with other people, certainly.
The rhetoric sounds kind of similar. The policy alignment is also...
Like, he is so shit scared to even acknowledge the genocide in Gaza, which is what the central part of this is, that he will not do it. He will not touch it. Because he doesn't want to acknowledge the genocide, and he knows that he will give the game away if he outright denies it.
You're going to completely misread who is going to advance your goals and who is going to undermine your goals. Over time, that confusion is going to weaken movements, and it will fracture coalitions, and it will create openings for really bad people.
Yeah. And, I mean, honestly, this is also an example of that. Like, this whole AstroTurf thing around Chorus, like David Pakman and the rest of these dickheads, is an attempt to get into movements as well. It's coming from a somewhat different direction. Yeah, exactly. It is utterly dire now, and yet it is still significantly better for them. And they're the first ones to say it. You look at the health ministry's figures, it's like, I mean, you're not losing an entire city block's worth of people a fucking week. It is a horrifying situation, but it is somewhat less horrifying now. But, of course, there's absolutely no guarantee that it'll stay that way. There have been indications that Israel and the U.S. might go back and just resume full-speed genocide like they were doing in 23-24.
With terrible ideas to come to power. Now, there's an attention component here that people also are ignoring. When you praise figures like Tucker because he apologized, even in a limited way, you're amplifying that. And you're exposing audiences to their broader messaging. Now, when I covered...
Well, the thing is, if you want to inoculate people intellectually against that messaging, you got to expose them to it enough so you can point out where the bullshit is.
Tucker's mea culpa, I pointed out, it's completely cynical.
Of course it is.
It lacks real self-reflection.
It is, yeah. I mean, the idea that he suddenly realized that actually maybe scaremongering against Muslims was a bad thing. I mean, it's just obviously bullshit.
It should not make anybody think that Tucker is now an ally. I was very clear about that. That is different from what we are seeing some of these people do. Now, none of this means you can't acknowledge when someone lands on a position you agree with. Of course you can.
I mean, he stays away from any concrete example of a position. It is fascinating how fucking... It is like actual political positions are lava. And like he's playing some sort of weird-ass game of Twister where you just absolutely cannot touch a concrete political position, because that would mean actually taking a stance on an issue, and that would give the game away.
Sometimes it's worth pointing out, hey, here's an issue I pointed out.
Or like what? Could you give an example of an issue, though, that we're talking about? I mean, is this just a completely abstract conversation we're having?
Rand Paul, if you care about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, Rand Paul is a relatively reliable person there.
Well, it depends which part of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights you're in favor of. If the Equal Protection Clause is something you like, then Rand Paul isn't great because he's a white supremacist. Like, he is anti-civil rights, but on the other hand, he's anti-surveillance.
We have overlap. He is at odds with the entire MAGA movement, but...
No, I mean, he isn't at odds with the entire movement. He's at not on everything. But again, it's like, talk about the thing. Talk about where, like, this is actually, he's trying, like, supposedly this is about, like, getting people to be careful with these far-right assholes who occasionally sound like they're on the right side of something. I mean, you could also mention Thomas Massey, but Rand Paul is an excellent example as well. But, I mean, it's like he will not, it is very easy to say concretely what the issue with him is. He is against all these mass surveillance bills. He is absolutely right on those. But if you say that and you acknowledge that that is a good position, then you are actually taking a position against the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and David Pakman's not going to do that. And if you then say, yeah, but the issue with him is that he also is against the Civil Rights Acts. He thinks that businesses should be allowed to discriminate against anyone they want, but he also doesn't think the NSA should listen in on them doing it. Like, then we get into actual issues, and then people can have positions. He, like, wants everything to be in this constant state of uncertainty. It's Schrödinger's position.
That doesn't mean that Rand Paul is actually an ally. It doesn't mean that we're going to build a movement here by adding Rand Paul to it, because he just doesn't, not because I wouldn't if he actually had the right policy views.
Like, again, why can't you just, like, name a few?
But because he doesn't.
Like what? Like, I mean, it's like, I probably would find myself largely in agreement with what he's saying here, because, I mean, I assume that what he's saying are the wrong policy views, or the fact that, again, he's very much against civil rights. He's very much against, like, desegregation and stuff. I mean, he's a white supremacist. And I assume that's probably what he's talking about. But he won't say it. He won't say the bits that he's saying he's kind of okay on. He won't say the bits that he sucks on. And so, actually, that leaves people a little bit defenseless against somebody like that, because you're not showing them where the bullshit is. You're not showing them where the hook is. This is, like, as a way of inoculating people against, like, far-right entryism, this is worse than homeopathy.
And so it's important to realize that these are simply not allies. Oh, but David, aren't you being in some way exclusionary? No.
Well, I mean, he's being exclusionary of any specifics.
I'm saying they're simply not allies on policy. If they were, I would include them.
Well, like, what, like, could you give, like, even one example for each of them, for fuck's sake? Like, you can say it about Rand Paul without even bringing up, Palestine, because I think Rand Paul's position on Palestine sucks as badly as David Pakman.
They're not allies on policy. And so you've got to make sure you're not substituting narrow rhetorical overlap with thinking that these are actually political allies. Politics is not about who says the thing that sounds good in a clip. Unfortunately, it has become a problem.
Well, like, I mean, that's probably good for David because he's in a clip right now and he sounds like shit.
See, for what politics is about. But the real question is, who do you consistently support?
At least he's gotten rid of the Ewok sweater. That sweater was annoying the shit out of me. I am irrationally annoyed by that sweater of his, just, I think, because he wore it so often, and mostly because it's associated with him, I think.
In power. And when you look at that, the idea that these figures are allies collapses instantly.
But you know what would make it collapse easier? You show what they actually stand for and you talk about it and talk about why it sucks.
And what's left is a warning sign. So don't fall for it. My friends on the left, don't fall for it. On the bonus show.
He does not have friends on the left.
I was there for the Jim Acosta, Julie K. Brown, Michael Tracy fight in Washington, D.C. There is extensive reporting about it, and I'm going to tell you what I saw.
Oh, okay. I don't give a shit. I mean, I hope Michael Tracy got hurt, but other than that... We're sort of closing in on it, but we've got a little bit of time, and so I thought we'd check out on Timmy Pool. Democrats panic after leftist star says theft and murder are okay on New York Times.
It is officially mid...
I mean, and I have to say, as own goals go, I mean, the way right-wing Dems have been having this public crash out about Hassan is really an impressive one. Because the polling, like, it showed that before all this, most people had not heard of Hassan. You know, outside of people who are, you know, watch, like, Twitch streamers and stuff like that, his was not a name that was well known. And so when you ask what you think of him, people said, who's that? And then all the right-wing Democrats, all the leading right-wing Democrats were like, oh shit, we gotta go and condemn Hassan. And now, like, there is a bipartisan motion in the Congress to pass the Fuck Hassan Piker Act. And the result of that is that people are starting to look him up who hadn't heard of him, and they're watching him, and it turns out they like, a lot of those people like him better than they like the people slagging him off. So that was really a great move that they made.
Term season.
Yeah. Tim Pool is just a fast shithead.
Then everybody and
River Rune says, David's overall strategy is to talk a lot and still say very little. He omits important context on purpose. His audience thinks they're the smartest, but they're so ignorant they don't catch on to it. Yeah, I think that's about right. And he very carefully, I mean, he is very cowardly politically as well. Like, he will not take any kind of stand that might eventually get him in trouble with, like, the Democratic Party or his billionaire funders and stuff like that. So he can't, like, he can't go and say that you might think that fucking Tucker Carlson sounds good on the genocide in Gaza, but actually he wants to deviate, distract the movement away from fighting U.S. imperialism and fighting for Palestinian liberation and push it towards some sort of, like, white nationalist anti-Semitic bullshit. How does anyone still watch Tim? Wasn't he exposed for being paid by... Yeah, he was through Tenet Media, but, like, I mean, the people who follow him don't really give a shit. I mean, like, all of these people, all these far-right people are funded by the shittiest people, mostly domestic shitty people. I mean, all they do is just say the stuff they're paid to say. And Tim Pool is a perfect example of it.
Democrats, they're actually polling decently, and there's concern Republicans are going to lose. Surprisingly, there is concern.
I mean, decently in the sense that they're less popular than Trump, despite supposedly being the opposition.
This is the historical trend. A president gets elected, then the opposition party takes the House. However, Democrats actually have some pitfalls this time around. Notably, their favorability is at a historic low.
Well, yes, specifically because they have not been opposing Trump.
Even when they should be trending upwards. And they have a big thorn in their side with everyone's favorite leftist streamer, Hassan Piker. Now, whatever you think of the guy... Democrats...
I mean, it's wild that he's a thorn in their side. Like, if they listen to him and actually, like, put their messaging around the stuff that he says... I'm not saying, like, every single word that he says, but, like, just the sort of general sockdemery that he is into, I mean, they would be absolutely kicking ass, because where he stands on a lot of things is actually just where the majority of the population is.
In trouble because he's splitting the party. He recently went on the New York Times podcast, The Opinions, and said that theft and murder are okay.
I kind of don't think that's... I mean, he said shoplifting, that he doesn't give a fuck about shoplifting.
And that he would steal if he could get away with it. And the hosts laughed.
He said shoplift. That's not the same thing.
And they enjoy it. I think Democrats are in big trouble because you're going to get a bunch of middle-of-the-road...
Yeah, exactly. I mean... In fact, for the most part, he seems to just avoid even talking about it. Which is wild in the case of Tucker Carlson. It's like, if you want to give a warning about Tucker Carlson and not talk about Israel in there, not talk about Palestine, then it is impossible to actually even have that conversation. Because the whole thing, the whole Tucker Carlson grift revolves around Palestine.
People maybe don't like Donald Trump, but don't want to be party to whatever that is. Where you have...
Well, yeah, they're fine with genocide, but shoplifting is where they draw the line.
Crime, you have street takeovers. These are the things that people
Street
favor
takeovers.
Republicans for. So as we kick into high gear in midterm season, we'll of course be talking a lot about polls and all this stuff. To be fair, just slow news day, to be completely honest.
Yeah, you can tell.
At the big store that everyone's leaving.
But not that would actually make a huge difference. Like, Tim Pool will talk about this sort of bullshit even on a fast news day.
With is the SPLC still, which, okay, they suck, and, you know, Donald Trump ragged on them, so we can go with that as well. I'm actually more excited to talk about this. There's a story from Newsweek. Chinese scientists are also disappearing. So we've got this story in the U.S. Now, I will say...
But at what cost?
The Atlantic put out this piece saying...
And it's going to turn out Chinese scientists are better at disappearing than the scientists here. And when they disappear, large infrastructure projects suddenly get finished, or something like that. And be like, they disappear and suddenly they drop an entire light rail system.
Dumb. For following the scientist conspiracy. They're saying, some old retired guy disappeared and you're all dumb for thinking so.
I mean, I will say it is actually, I mean, it is specifically right-wing outlets that seem to have been talking about this. But I've not heard anyone say that it is not true that these 10, I think it was, scientists have disappeared under these weird-ass circumstances. There is a thing that would reward further examination, but not by him.
It's happening also in China, and the important thing to understand is I got some sources for you. This has happened several times in the past. Iranian nuclear scientists getting killed or going missing. We have stories in the 80s. We have Cold War stories. It is common.
Wait, okay, so what the common thread is that people occasionally go missing? So it's like, okay, there is missing persons is a thing that happens.
In conflict, for rival nations and adversaries to take out their principal thinkers and researchers. Maybe
well, then Tim Pool is safe.
That's the case, but I'm gonna squeeze in a little extra thing here.
Oh,
There's
of course he is.
Nuclear propulsion researcher who was found dead. His Tesla crashed. His body was charred and unrecognizable. You know why that story's weird?
I mean, a Tesla crashed and there was a bad fire that left the body unrecognized. I mean, that's what Teslas do.
He left his phone and wallet at home. And do you know why that's weird?
Because he was driving away to make a phone call and buy things. Like, people forget their phone and wallet sometimes.
Your phone is the key to your Tesla.
Well, unless you have more than one phone.
So as a Tesla driver myself, when I read that, I said, that makes sense. Sure, I mean, you have key cards, but I don't know a single Tesla...
Wait, okay, so you have key cards. So maybe somebody decided they don't want their phone to be linked to Elon Musk's little fucking death trap.
Single Tesla driver who leaves their phone behind and then go and drives their...
Value crisis, as in... And is that value in the Marxian sense of the word, or are we talking family values?
Car when you use your phone as your key. It's a weird story. So we'll get into all that stuff. Before we do, we got a great sponsor. It's Pocket Hose, my friends.
Okay. Well, that is it for tonight. Thank you to everyone who joined in. Always good to see you. And let me just give you a little update on the crowdfunded translation project. Thank you to everyone who has supported that project, whether it's from spreading the word or spreading the funds. All of those things are greatly appreciated. All contributions are beautiful. And I got some links in the chat for anyone who wants to do either of those things. I will be back on here at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time on Friday, and I look very much forward to seeing you then. The originator of the term value crisis, eh? Of course he is. Of course they are. Oh, they're trying to avoid using the term overproduction because of thought slime. Probably. Okay, neat. Okay, well, have a good